Good afternoon. It's me again. Um, Trying to catch up on our class this weekend, and this is the video response to the Native American worldview versus the European worldview discussion board. I'm glad I got this one done in a timely manner because I want to tell you about a few things. First of all, let me congratulate you for your participation and for your clear attention to some detail, mostly in the video, and for your positive attitudes and your positive contributions. I also like anytime you bring in personal experience and make connections between what we're reading and your own life, that's a wonderful way to enhance those discussion boards. But I do want to remind you about a few things. First of all, I really don't want to see a lot of material repeated. It seemed a lot of people focused on the oral tradition part of that question and kind of repeated some of the same ideas a few times. You kind of want to avoid doing that. If we were in the classroom, which the discussion board is supposed to sort of simulate, once someone said something once, you probably wouldn't say the same thing again and again, but you might comment on that or add another example or something like that. So just keep that in mind. You want to move the discussion forward. You don't want to repeat material. Um, Kathy made a point about the Native American tales were more like descriptions than stories, and I thought that was a great observation. And I'm sorry, I'm distracted by my dogs barking outside. Because those stories, really what their purpose were, those Native American creation tales, just like any culture, any group in the world, they seek to explain, a lot of them to explain sort of the purpose for our existence. So these creation tales were sacred. You read the tale of the Seneca about the young man who is transformed by his experiences as a storyteller. He goes from someone that everyone makes fun of to somebody that everyone admires because he knows the history and he knows the tradition and he understands the stories, and he's able to share those stories. So you see how important that becomes in the Seneca culture and a lot of the Native American cultures. But I want you to know, and I think that some of you may have seen, there certainly are similarities between some of the Native American creation tales and the European um, sacred text. The European sacred text is the Bible. Some people do read the Bible literally, and I respect that, but I do want to throw out that a lot of people don't read those sacred texts literally. And so if we look at Genesis, for example, and begin to draw some conclusions about the people that subscribed to that version of creation, there would be some differences between those people and the Native American people who had a different story. You see some similarities. Noah's Ark, the flood, that particular story about the world being destroyed by water, and that earth diver idea is repeated in a lot of cultures. And in the Bible, Noah, um, builds the ark and takes all two of everybody, and saves them from the terrible flood. And while the dove is not an earth diver like in the other Native American tale that you read, the dove does find the olive branch, which means the waters are receding and now we can get back to living on the earth. So there are similarities in that way, but there are differences. Um, First of all, those Native American tales are oral traditions. Native Americans didn't really have a written language, and so they remembered these stories through the oral tradition, and that's perhaps why dance and other types of activities became part of that, because that helps you remember. Um, you contrast that with the Europeans, they're writing, um, and um, and so what we're reading in the explorers' texts and the settlers' texts, they're either letters or journals. Now they have a similarity in that sometimes they're trying to sort of explain their existence, you know, like a journal for like Captain John Smith, you know, this is what we did when we settled in Virginia. It's a record. So it is a record of what was done, like, and sort of like proof that he did things the way they were supposed to be done. And then the letters, you know, you have to look at the purpose. Columbus is writing his letters to secure more funding and to continue exploring. And so by naming islands after the royalty in Spain, and by spreading Christianity and converting, you know, these native peoples to the Christian cause, because that's so caught up in the civilization in Spain. You know, that's a different purpose. So that kind of leads me to what I was going to say again about your specific posts. Kathy's idea that it's more like descriptions than stories, that's probably because a lot of those myths or stories by the Native Americans were to explain either the purpose, the reason that they're there, or how they got to be there, or why they do things the way they do. Why storytelling ceremonies involve a giving of a gift or a taking of a gift, or why smoking the pipe is something that binds us together. Let's see, only of everyone in class, you know, when you have a discussion posting and it asks you to reference the reading, that's the thing where a lot of people lost points this week. Only a couple people got full 20 out of 20. If you didn't get 20 out of 20, please look at my specific feedback and consider this. It's mainly because I need to see that you're reading. And from a lot of the posts, it looks like you watched the video, which I'm really glad you did. It's a good video and a great overview and introduction, but I don't see many references specific to the reading. And then to boot, besides Native Americans, we needed to look at some of those European explorers into the settlements. That was on the reading guide for the week. And only Joe McNeil, Andrew mentioned Europeans. Joe mentioned Columbus's letter. Andrew mentioned Devaka and the healing activities that he was expected to do when he was in captive. And then Holly, in response to Hunter, but not in her original post, did reference the Europeans as well. So, you know, I've posted in course materials just an overview of the literature of exploration. It is just an overview and an introduction to pages 66 to 91 that you were to have already read and referenced in this discussion board. You might want to review that. I want to encourage you to continue to do good work. I know that next week there'll be more full credit postings, but you have to refer specifically to the text. And I pulled my textbook out here because I want to point out that every text usually has something about the writer, like biographical information about the writer, and then an introduction to whatever the reading is. This is D. Champlain, and so there's information about him. And then there is an introduction to his voyages, and then the reading, which is from voyages. You know, it's not the whole text. So sometimes you're referencing this material, which is fine because that provides you a nice introduction and overview. However, I mainly am concerned that you're reading the main text. So that's what I'm looking for when I say I want you to reference specifics from the text. So I hope that gives you a pretty good idea. I don't want to make these videos too long. Again, I think it's a great start. I think there's room for improvement. I'm trying to be clear about what I'm looking for. And I wish you all the best as you do your reading this week and you work in your small groups. This week's discussion boards are small group discussions. So there's only 4 people, maybe 5 at the most, but only 4 people. And there are several questions. I want everybody to choose a different question. And then I want you to reply to at least 2 classmates. That's the other way you want to get full points. You make sure you read the directions, and sometimes I ask you to reply to 1, sometimes 2. So read the directions. It's usually not more than 2, but 1 or 2. If you only responded to 1, you might not have gotten full credit again last week. So I hope you have a good week. Participate in your small group discussions. If you have any questions or comments, please email me, and I'll be talking to you again soon.